Yeah, 4 o'clock. Here we are, everyone, at our final session of the Global Forum. It's truly a privilege to be here with this global community. Um, One feels the vibration, the warmth. I think many conversations are heard that. I see people nodding. It's really very special. A community that is so committed in transforming management education. And when we talk about transforming, usually we use this term very generously, but transformation always includes oneself as part of it. That's the nature of it. Makes it difficult, therefore. But it's great that we can talk about these things as well, right? Not using terms, but trying to reflect what they mean. So as we begin this closing session of this Global Forum 2025, I want to remind us that profound change doesn't start with giant leaps. Just visualize the metaphor of a huge fat whale jumping up and then down into the water, and then you don't see the whale, until it comes up again. In contrast to a dolphin moving fast, very agile, up and down and up and down. Um, and that's really, for me, a metaphor of how change works. It begins with small, deliberate actions. Actions which one can build on because one reflects upon them, shares, has exchange about them, and then one moves up and develops a learning curve. The decisive thing is the learning curve, right? Not the one big thing. And that is something I want to bring up here. This year's theme, community and commitment to advance global responsibility, is not just a statement, it's a reflection of who we are, the way I understand it. Prime is not a platform we log into, it's a movement. And we co create it moment by moment, decision by decision. And as many of you know, or some of you know, I've been on a listening tour in the last year, hearing from many members of our community um, to really, help inform what are the next steps, the next little changes. Thank you to everyone who has taken the time to talk to me, to listen, us having these conversations and share your thoughts and insights into this vibrant community. It has been wonderful to tap into your years of experience or decades of experience, some of you, and the knowledge with Prime. It was very, very enriching. To end this global forum, I wanted to take, the time to also reflect of what I've heard, what we have built, and where we go from here. And as you know, Prime is part of the United Nations Global Compact. And the United Nations Global Compact is going through also a strategy process in cycles. It's actually happening right now, where they're formulating the next, episode of where UNGC is developing. And so there is this co-creation or at least alignment in such a way that Prime obviously informs itself of the journey which UNGC goes as well as an organization, as a unit within UNGC, and thereby basically aligns and makes sure that it can use the big shadow of UNGC to get traction and move forward itself as an organization, Prime as an organization. And we are in the middle of this process. But the listening tour helped to really hear and listen to what you have to say. And so let me tell you shortly, in a nutshell, what that was. Over the past year, we conducted a wide-reaching consultation, 67 institutions from 36 countries which responded, and the messages were clear. Our community is deeply committed to advancing sustainability through the means of education. And you see Prime as a platform for connection. That was one thing which came very often or most often. Collaboration as a second point, and transformation. These were the three key words. But you also called for more clarity of direction, stronger ties to the United Nations Global Compact, and a space that values both global relevance and local realities. So to contextualize and make sure that it is something which is driven by the reality locally and regionally. So this session is really our chance to act on those insights and get some inputs, reflections, and sharing. But what we also did, we asked the community, what are our strengths? Where can we improve? What should we pursue and what could hold us back? And you said our strength is community, the global network, our sense of purpose, and our collaborations. But there were also weaknesses which were mentioned. There are weaknesses which persist, which is one of them is lack of clarity. I should add, look, the way the world is moving in the last months and year, and consider that Prime, when we talk about Prime, we talk about Prime, I use this word, but Prime is on the one hand a community, but it is at the same time a, um, a big portfolio of different pockets of experiences and histories and socializations, right? So that's something to keep in mind, but still lack of clarity, over complexity, and the sense that we sometimes talk more than what we act. That was basically the things which were brought up. But you saw also opportunities. First in youth engagement, AI, partnerships, and micro credentials. Those were the most frequent topics which were brought up. And you also identified threats like fragmentation, limited visibility to this point of time, and institutional inertia. Those 3 points were mentioned as well. Now, this chart isn't static, right? It's a compass, and it helps us to move forward, because that is really the way I understand it, the DNA of Prime. Looking back, facing the things which we need to face, learning from it, and then moving forward, right? Going into the light. You also offered powerful aspirations for Prime's future. You want Prime to be more visible in global conversations. Specifically was mentioned the COP, Davos, in business schools and beyond. Different things were brought up. But you also want to support for meaningful engagement, training, student empowerment, collaborative research, curriculum reform, many things that you will see we have already been responding to, and more is needed and in the making. And you want us to simplify where we can, especially the reporting, so your energy goes into teaching, learning, and leading. And we're taking this feedback into every decision we make, for example, with the Prime Commons. These aren't complaints. It's breakfast for champions. These are not complaints, these are commitments. It's engagement. and commitment to a better future, which we can only reach together. As we said already yesterday, none of us can by ourselves really change something in the system overall. It requires this swarm intelligence, this magic of collaboration. And having said so, let's look at the framework, and I would like to pass it over to Cheyenne Metz now, who is our Senior Manager for Communications, to walk us through the framework we have set up for our work. And there will be also then in the next section more time for you to also give input in different ways. So, Cheyenne.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cheyenne Metz, and I'm the Senior Manager for Communications at Prime. You all have received a lot of emails from me, so if you don't know who I am, this is who I am. Nice to meet you. So thanks. So just kind of wanted to share this framework that we have for action. This is not necessarily a strategy per se. It's more of how we like to organize our thoughts and how you all can get engaged. So whenever we say, make a commitment, get engaged with Prime, I think sometimes it's unclear of what exactly we mean by that. And I'm a very pragmatic person, so I like to give very clear examples of how that can happen. So we've kind of organized it into 3 different ways: building community, advancing education, and charting impact. You'll probably see that on our website and in various places. So first, kind of starting with building community. This is the community and the ways that you can get involved, the ways that you can meet with other people for various purposes. So as you all know, we have our Prime chapters for localizing. We have our champions who are kind of leading a lot of our work and giving us a lot of feedback. We have our working groups, which are really looking into more thematic topics. We have our global students, which you guys all know by now. And then also the global forum as the kind of place to convene us. So that's really you can get involved in any of those ways. Your chapter chairs are all listed on our website. The working groups are available. We're looking for interest to new working groups. We've recently refreshed those, so we're looking to get more involvement in those. And our global students, we have applications every 6 months. And then of course the global forum every year. So that's our community piece. Advancing education. We really dove into this morning, honestly, and talked mostly about that. So teaching and learning, we have our pedagogy work, our curriculum, and then our research, which we're trying to grow a bit more. And then professional development is kind of lined throughout all of those, specifically with some of the certification and the pedagogy. And then lastly, we have charting impact. So of course, our SIP reporting, which Laura did a great job of speaking of to this morning. But we're also trying to kind of highlight impact stories. We really wanted, someone on the comms team, we're really trying to hear about examples where you are making impact in your community, where you're making impact in your school, where you've joined Prime and you've learned from us, and now that's had a result. We talked a lot about assessment. We're looking for that kind of idea. And in Prime Commons, when you create narratives, you can say, I'd like to include this in, or I'd like this to be considered for Prime communications. And these are the kinds of stories we're trying to find. We have 3 up on our website, and we're looking to build more of them. And then we're also doing signatory spotlights. So again, highlighting some of the work, really trying to showcase some best practices. So this is all of our framework. Please get involved, a really quick introduction. And I'll now pass to Meredith.
All right, thank you. It's the last part for feedback. If you've been in one of my sessions, I've probably made you touch your head or your ears or your nose or something really weird and ridiculous just to get your attention. So thank you for being such an engaged audience, even at 4:16 p.m. There are many quality days ahead of us, though, so 4:16 p.m. on day 2 isn't even that bad, Aggie. What we'd like to do next is to have you all kind of migrate towards tables or find small groups which with you can break out. This will be the last opportunity to kind of talk to your peers ahead of the ceremony tonight. but to make sure that it's your last chance to make a friend here at the Prime Global Forum as well. From there, what we have planned, and I've talked to Jacob and some of the student volunteers around the room as well, about placing individuals at the table. We have a Mentimeter that we're going to run with 4 core questions around our strategy and the conversations that we've had today about purpose, value, and seeing the value of community giving feedback, as the champions and I discussed yesterday at great length. So if you could go to a table and begin these conversations, we just want to start with those introductions. I think the last one is the most important one. Make sure they know who you are, both as a person and as an educator. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and transition through the 4 Mentimeter questions. I would like to ask the student volunteers at each table, once they scan the code, to only use 1 to 2 word answers when you give your Menti. Don't say amazing but horrible. Say amazing, horrible. And then it'll help build a better word cloud from there. All right, so if you want to go ahead and get moving around the room, and then we can have some introductions for the next 7 minutes.
Okay, we're going to go back to question 1 and hear from you all. So again, based on what has been presented, in what ways do you envision your role and contributions to Prime? Consider the impact of collective action. So maybe just a little bit of insight from conversations I've been hearing today and that I had at my table. We talked a little bit about the role of students and the role that they would like to take in their institutions. And specific example that was shared was students in their institution feel like faculty really know a lot about Prime, but students don't. And so they see their role as kind of an awareness raising role amongst the student body. And then we also had kind of the opposite feedback at the table too, where faculty don't really know that much about Prime. So we had a faculty member say that their role is also really about awareness raising about Prime. So being a Prime champion in your own institution and really sharing more about what Prime is. That's something we've seen reflected also at the global level, that we're doing pretty well at the breadth, but not so much at the depth of Prime, and really embedding Prime across institutions where you have multiple people that are really focused on Prime instead of that one really strong, really awesome Prime champion that might eventually move on to another role and we might lose touch. We even had a really great example at our table too, where a school has established a working group in their institution where it consists of multiple people from across different faculties and roles and functions that are part of what, you know, you could kind of call a Prime working group or a Prime committee. So it's not just one person championing Prime in their institution, but it's multiple at different levels and different functions. So I think those were really the kind of highlights from our conversation for this first question. I want to pass it back to the audience. Were there any really good reflections from this first question that someone wants to share, where they really reflected, looked internally on what they see as their role or their contributions to Prime? I know we have a few champions in the room, so I'll pick on you if no one has a really strong opinion here. Anyone want to share your role or your contribution? Something that might be a little bit different than what we've said so far. Yeah.
Just some things that I heard at this table here was they really all seem to want to get their students more involved and find ways to make connections within Prime, which I think has been a big topic here, is we have such a great network, but it's being underutilized. So more championing Prime at their schools, as you were saying, and making sure that students know about it and are involved and can get involved in different schools within Prime, which is something at Guelph that we want to see as well. With our global forum that we do, we want to see more students from different schools coming to Guelph to experience our sustainability conference, and vice versa. Like, I'd love to participate in conferences and get to see different schools as well, see what they're doing. So I think really using that Prime connection.
Amazing. So taking inspiration from other schools and other institutions to raise awareness in your own. Yeah, amazing. How many comments can we take, Meredith, from the audience? A couple more. Cool.
Thank you so much. My name is Maria Nakalanda. I'm with Marketplace, originally from Uganda. One of the things I have realized is that even when we have Africa representation in Prime, I find that it is American University in Cairo or International University of America from my recent experience. My call then is to see that we get to consider the global south from perspective of locally available universities. We had an experience recently getting just the Makerere University here from Uganda. It meant inclusion, we will all accept, is expensive, but it is worth the hassle. It's worth engaging governments that do not know about what PRIME is, that have never heard about it, that don't know what it would mean to even get a student to participate in a simulation, to bring them at the table. Because when we bring them, we realize they have a lot of potential. We realize they can sit at the table, they can collaborate and move the needle. So my call then is to work with PRIME to see that we spread this gospel beyond the global south that looks a little bit more like the global north to those countries that suffer a lot of development challenges. I'm happy to do that.
Thank you so much. Excellent. Awesome. Yeah. All right. Any last comments, and then we're going to move to the next question. One more? All right, one more.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ying. I have so honored to be the panel moderator from last year to this year. Last year is a Zoom. This year is so great to have in person. I can see it's truly sharing channel, and I want to shout out for my section with to work together with Anindo, Maha, and Naomi. I also want to thank you for all the participants to our sections, because we've realized it's not just our issues. We find some common experience, common struggling, and also common opportunity. Then we can work together. So I believe in the sharing is really giving us energy and also giving us hope. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about question 2, which is a lot about community and how we're able to all connect. Obviously, Global Forum is one of the best ways, in my opinion, to connect. But it is hard to travel, and not everyone is able to travel. So, seeing the opportunities between connections between working groups and our chapters and our Prime Global students, and we're already making a lot of inroads there and creating new opportunities to engage with each other. But the more opportunities we're able to engage in person, but also online, I think the better, and continuing to foster that collaboration. And I'm going to dip a little into question 3, so I don't want to take Hi's thunder, but our table also talked a lot about that connection with UN Global Compact and really trying to find roads to connect there as well. They are the businesses that are employing our students in our universities, and so it would be really wonderful to have more dialogue and to hear more from UN Global Compact at forums like these, where you all are attending and being able to listen and learn from them, and they are able to listen and learn from you as well. So those are just a couple of the feedback comments that we discussed, but I would love to hear from you all as well. If anyone wants to discuss a little bit more on community, happy to pass the mic. Yeah, sure will.
Thank you. So dealing with a large regional, area, what we've worked is something we call cafes. So we do a lot of 1 hour for lunch break for the local, members, schools to join in. And we sometimes even invite other members. We typically ends up talking about the SIP report, how hard it is, and it becomes that kind of crying thing. But it helps, again, put faces to the names, a very small scale of what you're doing here today. So that's one. I definitely want to second the UN Global Compact networks there. And maybe if it's okay with you, if you allow me, how many people in the room are aware of the value proposition of the UN Global Compact as an academic? How often as a academic working in a member school that you're here, have you been thinking maybe I should reach out to UN Global Compact and invite them to my classroom or talk to them or something like that? How many did that? That's exactly what we want to change next time we meet, okay? So the whole idea is that Prime is UN Global Compact. We are UN Global Compact. We're just the machine that produces the leaders for the UN Global Compact. That's the mission, all right? And we really need to align very heavily on this. And we had a session that, which was a breakout session. And there's a lot of talk about what can we do to advance this and make sure it's never going to be as seamless as we like it to be, but at least major steps in our structure that allow this kind of hands up to, hands up, hands down ratio to change. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great point. So hopefully everyone's hand will be up next year in Cairo when we see you at Global Forum. Okay. Anyone else want to contribute to question 2? Yeah, Priya?
I'd just like to say that Prime's mission is to deliver responsible business leaders who can solve sustainability challenges. I think it is extremely important to look at this from an interdisciplinary perspective because we don't exist in isolation and no man's an island on its own. So I would like to see more interdisciplinary research, curriculum, pedagogy, because I think this is the foundation of being able to solve sustainability challenges, and this is how we truly develop responsible leaders of the future through this perspective. So there should be more dialogues with interdisciplinary mission and agenda mindset. I say this because I have come across many experiences where other schools and other disciplines want to connect with the business school to look at solving disciplinary challenges, sustainability challenges. So if we can move in that way with Prime, I think we will foster a stronger, more connected Prime community that connects beyond just the business school.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great point because I know many of you are in schools that constantly work with other disciplines as well. So that leads very well into question 3. So I'll hand it off to Hai.
Hello, everyone. My name is Hai. I think I've met many of you, but Hai, like the greeting Hai, so it's not too hard to remember. I'm the senior manager for partnerships. So on question 3, it was about partnerships, collaborations, and impact. And I don't want to reiterate what other colleagues have mentioned already about more engagement of the private sector, because in my line of work, I hear time again where they feel like perhaps there is a disconnect between what academia is producing and what they need in terms of talent. And they always say, we don't have the talent pipeline out there that have the sustainable skill sets. So they keep on asking, not just the UN Global Compact, but the UN, please help us. And we see that through surveys, we see that through ad hoc discussions and whatnot. But I'm not going to say just at our table, but discussions throughout the day, there was a lot of discussion about how can we create more impact. They see that academia is a wealth of great knowledge of experts, profound research. How can we leverage that into real world impacts? So a lot of colleagues today that I spoke to, like, how can we bridge that gap to create more impact in the world? And I know there were a lot of examples today and yesterday as well, showing what students have done, what faculty have done. And so there was a lot of discussions on that. And so I want to open up and hear from the audience, perhaps of stories of your impact or how we can create more impact. So we'd love to hear from the audience, perhaps 1 or 2. Over here. Yep. I got the wrong side of the room, sorry.
As a professor, I can. So hello, everyone. My name is Bindu Agrawal, and I come from India. And I'm representing here marketplace simulation, and I also teach at Madam Rashna University. So I like the idea that the coil, recently I was talking to Ayushi, and she told me about the idea of coil project, and I was so happy to know that this kind of initiative already are available at the Prime platform. But one more thing I would like to request Prime to take forward. Industry association is missing somewhere because I like 3 years back, my PhD scholar was doing some research in global compact, and we really faced challenges going out to the industry and taking their feedback and something like that. And they, as you suggested, that they are actually looking forward for, pipeline, the trained people, which is missing. I think as an academician and as an industry people, we should have that kind of facility, and we know what are the ingredients we need to, put in the recipe. But this is just a question of initiative and working out these things smoothly, ironing out. Thank you.
Thank you. Well noted. Well noted. Any others?
Yeah, it's okay. For the internet.
So hi everyone, I'm Ash from the University of Colorado, and my research is on environmental entrepreneurship, and I realized a lot of entrepreneurs who are starting businesses for the natural environment actually had a PhD or discovered a new chemical or something in academia, and then they started a business. And then I discovered that we're actually on the same team. Everyone in academia is probably working for the common good, but there's a disconnect and like, hey, we do not commercialize science. It's not based on our values. But once you tell them, hey, this commercialization is going to benefit the whole globe or your community, a shift happens, and then they disclose their inventions, and they're actually very interested in learning about the tools that the university or the business school that can actually help them take their research from the lab into public use. So I found that to be a very, very simple tool that we as the business school with interdisciplinarity that can bring in the whole university into the SDGs because they have the knowledge, they have the research, but there's a psychological gap that we can very easily attract. So that's just my experience.
I 100% agree on that, this connection and collaboration in that regard. But I will hand it over to my colleague Zane for the final question.
Thank you. Hi. Okay. I'm told we don't have a lot of time, so I'm just kind of gonna give a very general overview. So my question kind of focuses on the support tools or resources, which is fitting because my background is in research for Prime. And I think we've talked about this in our plenary session this morning and a bunch of our breakouts. And I've just kind of been hearing a lot of talk throughout the day, kind of what Priya was saying earlier to speak to what Hai was saying earlier and a lot of different things. We've talked about pedagogy certificates, curriculum resources, kind of how to pilot it and integrate it into your own cultures and institutions in your own regions. We've also talked about research opportunities, what that looks like for our special issues. And I think some interesting hot topics that I've heard both specific and general include kind of, I had an interesting conversation with someone about teaching evaluations and kind of what that looks like. How could we, is it something we do want to standardize across different places or cultures or communities, especially given the fact that us as Prime are trying to provide you with some curriculum content. Again, I don't want to take too much time because I do want to hear from someone else. But the last thing that I just feel like reiterates everything we've talked about today kind of focuses on connectedness and learning from each other. And I think, and I hope we can evidence this through our SIP and through all of the resources and all of the things that we provided you today. So I want to also, again, open it up to our community to kind of answer this question and maybe give a specific example from their own institution or region. I'll pick on someone too. I'm like Sophie. No one? Okay, I have someone in mind. Okay, thank you. Someone's over there.
Hi, we spoke about the, let's say, language barriers and also taking into consideration context. So at the same time, we also discussed potential tools. So for example, the use of AI to translate the curricula that has been gathered and everything, and also backwards, gathering resources that are in other languages and then translating them to English could also perhaps give us more representation of different contexts in the materials that are there.
No, for sure. I think a language barrier is something, I think even my background's also in the I-5 and getting those translated. I remember we did kind of use some resources, but I had to even review the Arabic one. And it's really just hard labor, but it is about using those tools properly. And I think with AI and everything, that's such a great idea. Do we have time for one more question? Jim Walsh over there.
I think you just did the wash me around.
Okay, just a thought. When no one was answering the question, I figured, all right, I'm not shy. I'll speak. The flip side of advancing responsible management education is protecting ourselves from those that want to dismantle responsible management education. So yesterday, there was some loose conversation that was just beginning about maybe the accreditation agencies could help a coordinated response to protect ourselves from autocracies that might come after us. And so I just want to put that on the table, that part of advancing is to protect protection from retreating. So.
I agree with that. And I was involved in the making of that webinar series. So I think we also have that 2-pager that was out yesterday. We'll give you those resources and they'll be sent out in an email in case you want to access those about our insights and our finding and kind of to see where all of our standards overlap. So it can help you in your reporting process and also protect you guys and advance all of your work further. And I'll pass it back to Omid to kind of wrap up for the day. Thank you guys.
Okay, so it's all empty here now. Everyone left and right side. Yeah, I have to start turning and twisting now. Closing words. I make it short and add a few sentences afterwards. Thank you for these 2 days, these 48 hours. I think I'm speaking on behalf of all of us when I say that sustainability is the objective, but it's also the path. It's also the way we make it work. And in the sphere of human interaction, sustainability means trustworthiness, sustaining relationships, building friendships. That is the thing which enables us to build something which is not built on powder cake, basically, right? And the second point I wanted to share before I come to 2 points to close is, I was thinking, what is it that in terms of the conditions which make sustainability possible? And it is something which is deeply anchored in the foundations of the United Nations. And that is that without one word, which we all know and hope for, I will say it after this sentence, everything we do is not going to work well. We know it because we see it around us, and that is a lack of peace. If we don't have peace in the world, we cannot do anything. We can't invest, we can't finance things, we cannot build trust, right? All the things which we do, we know how important education is, but we also need to make sure, and that's the beauty of Prime, that it is a agile and energized community, but it really wants to create this in a peaceful manner, something which we lack a lot in the world today. And, maybe to a last third thought is, I think we are much more connected than we are aware of. And when I say we, I mean generally society, but us as well. If we believe that connection, and we talked a lot about these terms these 2 days, is decisive and the foundation of progressing into the future, if we believe in this, that we are much more interconnected, and believe in this picture of a human family, that we extend beyond our biological family, I think then new avenues open up for collaboration across boundaries, traditional boundaries, gives us a lot of courage also to go and leave our comfort zones. And with this thought, I want to connect a big thank you to the team, which I was very privileged to work with and to lead. And that is the team, the core team, which actually made this work, orchestrated this conference, and is day and night, or sometimes nights as well, working on making sure that this prime experience becomes a reality every week. And that is the prime team. So can the prime team please come up on this stage? Yes, yes. Cheyenne, we have missed Cheyenne. We miss a few people here, but at least we have most of them up here. And, you know, I'm not exaggerating when I say that the way this team collaborates, the culture of supporting each other, believing in the community, despite really very tough work, which is never completed. You know what I mean? It's never a work where you say, okay, now it's done. All the checklists are, you know, crossed. There is always something left because it's so complex, it's so big, it's so heavy. And they make it so light. And for example, I was, just to tell you this little anecdote, when I arrived on Sunday, you know, I left my devices at home because I'm coming from Europe, and I visited recently, you know, some countries, and I didn't want to get stuck at the border. So I left my device. I know some of you did that as well. And with all the troubles which come with it, because you realize how naked you are if you don't use your own devices, and you forget about a lot of things which you would need to do. It's very complex. Anyhow, I came here basically but blindfolded with one device which only works halfway, and the other device misses a few things which I didn't know beforehand. Anyhow, if they wouldn't support me while doing all the other things in here, I don't know whether I would be able to, you know, be so calm right now. So this is only one example. And so I want to thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for all this great friendship, collaboration, and sense of comradeship which you have for each other, and also the sense of love which you have for the community. This is very special. And these are moments which one remembers. This is not, you know, these are not moments. We have all our wonderful moments, but this is really a moment of time where we say, this is really which makes the difference. As we said this morning, right? Behaviors. Nothing more authentic than the things which we can bring down to the street and do it, try things out. So a lot to learn from you. Thank you so much. And again, tremendous thank you to all of you for your insights, for your participation, for being a part of this wonderful community we call Prime. And I look forward to celebrating our achievements, of course, this evening at the awards reception. So the good thing is we are not done yet, right? We have the RME week. So these are 2 days of it, but it's the Global Forum 2025. You heard what happens next year, 2026, so very exciting. I already heard from several of you that you're excited already to participate there, and I see the energy levels go up, and that's good like this. So a lot of great further moments together for those who stay for the rest of the week. And again, thank you very much for all that. Let's clap, etc.